Last night, we of course watched a drawn match between St Kilda and Hawthorn. The game was amazing. The interchange was amazing that cost Hawthorn a goal and probably the match. We also saw a run between the man on the mark and the kicking player, costing St Kilda a shot on goal that they probably would have kicked. And we saw the surface, Garry, which was quite extraordinary. Now, we're not going to dwell on this for hours. That's the domain of your more boring AM-style station. But what I'm going to do, Garry, is I'm going to just run you through a little of what was said last night by our main man, Jared Roughhead, about the surface. Have a listen to this.
Oh, well, we haven't played here since we played Carlton about 8 weeks ago, and to be honest, it still wasn't great. There was a patch, I think, up on one of the ends of 50s that at a 10-metre radius, every bloke seemed to fall over. Yep. So, obviously, you just got to work with what you've got.
And then we heard from Jeff Kennett prior to the match, who had comments about the same thing, the surface at Etihad.
But this will always be a compromised surface, and one day, and I know the AFL is looking at it, it will not be long before we have a synthetic surface here on Etihad Stadium. This sort of surface that we have now is very expensive to try and maintain.
The AFL said they've never looked at synthetic surfaces, Jeff, to play on.
That's not what I've heard, and I can say that with a great deal of authority.
I know you got more on that, Damo, but keep your powder dry, because earlier in the week we heard from Ian Collins, the boss of Etihad, on the surface.
Jeff's got his own views. I didn't know he was a doctor of medicine or a doctor of turf, but that's his prerogative to make those statements. However, one does get a little bit tired of some of the comments, especially when we talk about safety of a venue, safety of a workplace, because we'll defend that to the end.
Agree. Nth degree, I think was how he's going to finish it there, Colo. So, again, we've got the people that run Etihad Stadium, Garry, saying there isn't a problem. You've got the players saying that there is, and officials at clubs saying that there is. But overwhelmingly, the vibe seems to be, whether you think there's a problem there or not, nothing's going to happen about it anyway.
No solution. That's the whole issue, and I think it's getting to the stage where that has to be resolved, because as we spoke to Jeff yesterday about the 11 o'clock ground inspection, I used the word farce, and Jeffrey agreed with it, and it is, because we know that 11 o'clock on Friday morning of a game that's going to be played in just over 7 hours, nothing's happening. So if that's their attitude to the ground inspection, then forget about it. Until they change that and change the capacity to be having a viable alternative, a realistic alternative.
But that's the bigger problem, Gary. There isn't an alternative.
What is the point?
Because even if you do bring it forward by 48 hours, 72 hours before a game, there's still no alternative venue.
Well, there's got to be.
There's not, though.
Well, then what's the point of having a ground inspection?
That's what it gets back to. There's no point of having a ground inspection.
That's right.
They might as well just ditch the whole thing and just play.
Farce.
No, there is. They've played Friday night games here at the G and then Saturday afternoon games here at MCG, back-to-back. That's an alternative.
But it's not going to happen.
But
there's other problems. There's contractual issues with regard to Telstra or Etihad Stadium. You need to play 44-plus games there a year.
Yeah,
that's contracted.
Not if they don't sign off on the ground.
But Etihad Stadium will say it's right to go. It's presentable.
Well, remember we did this on Footy Classified 4 weeks ago, made the ring around and said to the AFL, what happens if the two clubs go and do their inspection at 11 o'clock yesterday, turn around, look you in the eye and say, we think it's an unsafe workplace and we're not playing? And the response was, correct me if I'm wrong, if we think it is, you're playing there. End of story.
Well, and it appears last night that what happened was the Hawthorn Footy Club during the week voiced strong concerns about the hardness of the ground. So, therefore, they've softened it with water to the point where the hardness was acceptable. And then we saw what we saw last night, which is players farcically just slipping over left, right and centre.
Who are you going to listen to in this debate, right? Who would you listen to? The players or the guy that's in charge of running the ground and the guy who's in charge of running the competition? Because from what I've heard, Ian Collins and Andrew Demetrio say no problem, no issue. I don't know what they're talking about. So there's two blokes that, from my memory, haven't been out there playing for a long time, and a whole host of others that actually put the boots on and go out and tell you otherwise.